Hey, everybody. We're live. Welcome to, wait, let me take this down. Where is that? There we are. Welcome to Bill Has Opinions, your socially distanced entertainment for the evening. I am Laura Lavoie, and I'm joined, as always, by Bill Perkins, who has opinions. Hey,
Hi.
Bill, how are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah. I got opinions today. And beers. Tell everybody what you did already today.
So, and I was gonna give this company a shout out during the station break, but I'll do it now. So my partner Matt, who is in law school, he took a very important test today that's required to take the bar. So he had the day off, and he took this test. And
So
to celebrate, when he was done, we went. Yes, it's not the bar, and he thinks he did okay. So that's the important part. But and he may be watching, as far as I know. We'll see. But to celebrate, we went to New Belgium Brewery here in Asheville, and I wanted to give them a shout out because their physical distancing was really good. You have to make a reservation, so I felt really safe and comfortable there. Like, they make you wear a mask anytime you interact with their staff, including when the staff comes to the table, which I thought was really great. But so, to your point, Bill, I have had 3 beers so far today, and I am currently drinking, like, going back to my Michigan roots, drinking here in Oberon. So I have pre-gamed well.
I almost got an Oberon for a whole case of them, rather. But I opted instead today for the Pisgah Blueberry Wheat. As anyone who watched last week's show remembers, my friend Jay was in town from Michigan visiting me, and he had bought a 6 of the Pisgah Blueberry Wheat and had them in my refrigerator, but he drank 4 of them and I drank 2 of them, and so I was wanting for them. Although the place I bought these from doesn't have them as cold as I like them. Like, this is a beer that tastes really, really good the colder it is. And I think most wheat beers are like that. The colder a wheat beer is, the better it tastes, right? So these are
yes, I agree. Completely agree.
But they're about 5 degrees warmer than I'd like them to be. If that makes any sense at all. So it does something to the flavors change depending on what the temperature is. So because it's a little warmer, they're leading more with blueberry and less with wheat. Mm-hmm. And I like the weedy edge on this beer. So that's, but anyway, it's neither here nor there. I'm fine. After I have 3 of them, I won't care.
That's fair. And that's the important part. And Jay has 6 more with him. So cheers to that.
Yes.
Yes. And also, people listening, we are much funnier when you are drunk, listeners at home. So please get your beers and join us, because I'm already a few beers in. Bill's trying to catch up. So hopefully we'll be funny enough.
All right.
That's our goal. That's our plan. All right. So our topic of the day. Oh, yeah. So our topic of the day. So while we are not experiencing crowds right now, as evidenced by my recent sojourn out to a location that was not crowded, crowds. We're not experiencing them, but let's talk about them. So, Bill, do you have some opinions about crowds?
Yeah, I do. But first, before I really get into it, I want to I kind of want to follow up on what you were talking about, the experience you had at the brewery there. So you're saying it wasn't crowded, which was good, because they were actually being like, hey, they're only allowing a certain number of people in. And I'll say this, most of the restaurants that I've been to that I feel comfortable at, or breweries or whatever, I don't go out a lot, but, maybe once every 2 weeks. And the things I go out to that I enjoy are things where they're kind of filtering people, and they're being very cautious. So let me ask you this: what was the crowd that was there, even though it wasn't really a crowd? Were the people mostly being respectful towards their rules? Because I've seen there's been a lot of pushback on having rules. Like people have been like, I don't have to put up with this crap. I'm an American citizen, you know. So,
Right. Right. No, and so what I will tell you is we made reservations as requested by the venue. So first off, that helps because when you make a reservation, obviously you're not just getting people wandering in and crowding up. So we made reservations, which was great, and they gave us the rules, the breakdown of the rules as soon as they delivered us to our table. And it was, wear a mask anytime you're away from your table or if you're interacting with your server, which I thought was really good. And we also went at 3:00 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. So what I will say is I don't know what it would be like if it was peak tourist time, which 3 p.m. on a Tuesday is never going to be peak tourist time. So that may have played a part. I imagine many of the people there were locals because they could get a reservation. We tried to get a reservation this past weekend with some other friends, and there were no reservations available. None. Right. Today was the first day it was even possible, which luckily was the day we needed them. So.
Well, that's fine. I think probably they're probably booked 3 weekends out on the weekends, would be my guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And, as I mentioned before, my wife owns a restaurant. And so and it's good to book a reservation here if you're going to have dinner here. They still have walk-ups, but on the weekends, man, let me tell you something. Speaking of crowds, so this is a town of about 800 people during the winter. And in the summertime, there's about 3,000 people in the summertime, maybe, because there's a lot of vacation homes in the surrounding area and the hills here,
Right.
But it has been packed every weekend all summer long, in spite of the fact that there is a pandemic going on. People just don't seem to give a rat's ass, and it has been crowded. I mean, like I said, she's at half capacity, but I'll come by here sometimes, like to go run an errand or something. I'm driving past on the weekends, like Saturday afternoon, and every parking lot space in town is packed up. And I mean, we're talking, this town is like a block long, okay? People don't understand. Like you can Google Earth, Saluda, North Carolina. It's a tiny little fucking town. And it is packed on the weekends lately. And I don't know what all these people are doing or why they're here, but oh my God, like it's just crazy. And then there'll be a huge queue out front in the place. And I don't know how long they're having to wait for, but so here's how do I feel about crowds? Okay, I don't like them, really. I got a couple of exceptions. But mostly I don't like them.
Which I'm sure we'll get to. That's the important part.
But for the most part, I do not like crowds. I don't have. I'm not agoraphobic or anything like that. But I don't know if there is a phobia for crowds. I don't know if I'm crowd phobic, but it does make me uncomfortable being a crowd.
Agoraphobia, I did actually look it up right before the show. Agoraphobia does cover a fear of crowds, among other things.
Okay, because I don't mind being outside, but so if I'm in a place like Times Square, I definitely get like, this is not cool. Like, there's too many people here. There could be a trampling,
It's funny you mentioned Times Square because later I want to talk about it because that was my first major crowd experience was actually Times Square, and I'll talk about it later, but yes, you are absolutely right.
And we're both talking regular Times Square, not New Year's Eve Times Square, right? We're just talking like a regular Saturday afternoon.
But I will be talking about New Year's Eve Times Square after the station breaks. So stay tuned for that, listeners, all two of you, Heather and Jay.
Okay, so I don't like crowds for the most part, except for my exceptions. But I will say, I don't even want to say I'm scared of them because, so when I'm in New York City, I avoid Times Square because there's not. So here's the thing with crowds. I guess I need a payoff. I'll put up with it if there's a thing I really want, right? If there's a concert I really got to see,
right? Exactly.
Or if there's a panel at a con I really want to go to, or something like that. But Times Square is just not a good time, right? Like it's touristy nonsense. There's no reason to be there. There's nothing good there unless you're there to see a show. If you got tickets to a Broadway show, fine, but get the hell off of Times Square and just go down the side street there to 45th or whatever and go see a show. And you don't need to be in that thick of that nonsense, right? But so I remember last time I was in New York, me and my wife were there, and she wanted to go to Times Square. And I think it was under the pretense that we were going to get in that queue to get like last minute tickets to something. But we got there and Times Square was just hella crowded and the queue was like a mile long. And we realized we can either like blow the entire afternoon. We realized we can either blow the entire afternoon in New York. We were only there for the weekend. We're like, we can either blow all of Saturday afternoon standing in a queue, hoping to get tickets for a show, or we can go do 7 other things. And I was like, no. Let's go do 7 other things because I got other shit I could do. Like I could go eat some falafel or something, and I would have a better time than standing in this line.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. No, 100%.
Yeah. So so crowd adjacent is queues, right? Because that's part of crowding is queuing. And I am not queuing. Unless there's a really good payoff. And one of the things I don't queue up for is food, okay? I don't give a shit how good your restaurant is. It's not going to be worth a 3-hour wait. I've never waited 3 hours for anything and was like, whoa, that was totally worth a 3-hour wait. So and I say this because in Asheville, there were several restaurants in Asheville where if you don't have a reservation, if you just walk up, you're going to be in a 3-hour queue. And to hell with that, man. And those restaurants, they aren't even good restaurants. They have a reputation because they used to be good restaurants. They were good restaurants 12 years ago. And now they're shitty restaurants with a reputation. And everybody queues up for them. But I'll walk over there, and we jokingly, because there's this one restaurant in Asheville that we jokingly call the overflow room for this other restaurant.
Yes. We've been there too. And the reason we've been there is because we can never get into the other restaurant.
Right. So you go to the first restaurant and you say, how long will it be? And they say 3 hours. And you say, well, fuck that. And you walk next door and you say, how long will it be? And they say 20 minutes. And you go, okay, fine. And so I always eat at the place next door.
No, I agree though. There's an entire generation of Ashevilleites who have never eaten at the first big name restaurant that's now a chain. It wasn't before, but now it is because they branded and they moved out. There's an entire generation of people in Asheville that have never eaten there, but have only eaten at their down the street neighbor that is very similar and might as well be the same thing.
Right. And I finally did go, and it was not anything I would have queued for 3 hours for. And to be honest with you, I think I prefer the 20-minute wait place.
Exactly. Yes. No, 100%. Well, and the first time we went to the actual 3-hour place was when they expanded. They made it. They became a chain, and they opened their other locations. Mm-hmm. And we went to one of their other locations, and that might have been it. Like it could have been good in its heyday, but it was not particularly good when it was a chain. So.
No. I find this is true. Once a thing becomes a chain, the heart and soul of it are gone. Like whatever made it nice in the first place, because they're spread thin. Like the owner can't put their passion and their drive into 7 places. Like it's just not a
right.
So whatever it was that made it get that reputation for being like this is the place you got to go eat. Once it expands to being 7 locations, that's gone. Just give it up. Like, and certainly if they're still having a queue, just say the hell with it. And I mentioned this. I think I mentioned this in our pizza episode about queuing up to go to the original Pizzeria Uno in Chicago. Like, just don't bother. It's not that good. You can get good Chicago style pizza at 20 other places in Chicago that you won't have to wait 3 hours before you sit down and then another hour after you order because you're going to be starving. I guess you got to show up at like 9 in the morning.
Right.
And anticipate you'll be hungry.
No, I completely agree with you as far as waiting for things. And I don't, so here's a question before we go into the station break. Here's a question for you. Do you think your aversion to crowds has changed as you've aged? Because I had a much bigger tolerance for crowds when I was in my 20s, even early 30s, than I do now. But like now, for instance, a show, we went to see the Descendants play when they just did their big reunion tour. And I love the Descendants. I saw them once when I was like 24, and they were amazing. And they're one of my favorite bands, and I love them. And we went to a place in Asheville known for its concerts, an amazing venue. And we were in there, and I'm watching all these 40-year-olds in the mosh pit, and I'm like, hell no, I'm not doing that. So we stood in the back of the room the whole time, and then they got close to like the first encore, and I'm like, I've heard every song I want to hear. Let's go, because I was just over the crowd. So do you think it's changed over time? Do you have less interest in being in a crowd now than you would have, even 20 years ago?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I was always a concert back in the day, and I definitely think my concert going has tapered off. Although I'll say, like, I had a brief spike in it, right, like the end of last year. I went to more concerts than I'd been to in like 7 years. Like, I don't know.
Well, that was good timing.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. I got a couple in before the end of the concert.
Right.
It was, so yeah, because I will say, because I went through a period where A, concerts got too expensive, and B, they got too crowded, and B, they go too long, and we're old, and we're standing there on a concrete floor, and your feet hurt, and you're tired, and like you said, like and the encores always seem contrived now, like like
right,
like they make you wait until the encore sometimes to hear the song you came to hear in the first place, and it's like.
Yes.
They should play the song that everyone would hear first. That way they can get all the goofy, the like people who just want the one song. Say, fuck it, get out of here. You heard the one song, now you can go home. And then all the real fans can be like, okay, now the crowd thinned out. Ha ha, that would be ideal. But instead they always make you wait until the encore to hear the big hit song, which is stupid to me, because then the encore is funny, because if they didn't play this song and this song yet, there's going to be a damn encore whether you scream or not. So that's bullshit.
Right. Exactly.
I've definitely lost interest in wanting to be out until 11:30 or 2 in the morning. It used to be 2 in the morning when I was in college. The show didn't start till 10, and it would go till 2, and you would be so tired and but you weren't then because you were a young kid. You didn't care. You're like, woohoo, let's go do shit. Let's go to Waffle House, But now I'm like, you guys wrap the shit up. I'm ready to go home. Like, it's so sad. I remember when I got to the point, I think I was in my 30s, and I was in a concert, and I was standing there listening to a band I liked, and I remember halfway through the show going, okay, I really hope they would wrap this up. And I remember thinking how sad that is. And I think, Portlandia even did a bit about this, about how you actually look forward to the concert more than you enjoy the concert. Like, it's the
right.
You like the idea of the concert. The older you get, that's what it is. It's an idea. It's I remember concerts. Yeah. Those are fun. But then you go and you're like, oh my God, I fucking hate this experience. So yeah.
No, absolutely. No, that's 100% there with that. No, the Decemberists or not Decemberists. I still like the Decemberists, and when I've seen them, I'm seated, so I'm totally down with that seated concert. But the Descendants concert, it was 18-year-old me was really excited for from the time we bought the tickets until the time we went to the show. And then I got to the show, and I'm like, this is great, but it's really loud, and I have to stand, and I don't like it anymore.
Suddenly you realized you weren't 18-year-old you. You were 40-year-old you.
Exactly. I was 40-something-year-old me. It's totally different. What I was impressed with, though, was the Descendants themselves. Milo Aukerman, who was like 50 by the time he was doing that show, was fucking rocking it out up there. That was what impressed me. I was like, holy, I don't even want to stand here, much less I want to be up there doing what you're doing.
Yeah, gotcha.
Impressive. Impressive. But yes, I totally get that. And I will also say, like, I do enjoy concerts, but I don't enjoy crowds anymore. So when it's standing room only, I get really anxious. But like we went to see Weird Al a couple of years ago, and Weird Al had always been on my bucket list. And it was a seated show. So I was fine staying for all the encores because it was like a theater experience. It had nothing to do with being in a crowd. I could sit there and I could cheer, and I knew that the encores were coming, and I understood how contrived they were, and it didn't matter because I was sitting down.
Yeah.
Which means I'm old.
So here's another thing I'll say about if the crowd is seated, you also are aware that there's not going to be no one's going to like bump into you or run you over or any of that shit like happens. You know, when you go to a concert in standing room, if you're short, you're going to wind up like you're going to find a perfect spot at the front, and then 2 minutes before the show starts,
every time
some 8-foot dude is going to come muscle his way up to the very front and stand in front of you, like he needs to be at the very front
every freaking time.
And then some girl's going to be dancing around with her beer, and she's going to sling it at you, and somebody's going to burn you with a cigarette. And somebody's gonna like you're gonna be like maybe you're in a spot because you want to watch the show, but you're too close to the mosh pit, and so you're gonna get like accidentally moshed, you know, like that all that horse shit that happens, right? Like you don't want to deal with I don't want people touching me, and I don't want people. And then there's oh my god, I remember one time I went to see the Pixies in Raleigh, and I don't remember I think it might have been in June maybe. But it was at this place called Disco Rodeo. It's changed hands 9 times. This venue. It's actually out like in an industrial park or something. But there's this venue. There's this venue, and it's been like a gay bar, and it's been a rodeo bar, and it's been all this. But anyway, so the big bar in the Chapel Hill area is called Cat's Cradle, and I think they actually, when a show is too big for the Cat's Cradle, which is an actual club, when they too big for them, they book this, and it's like a room with a mezzanine and everything. Oh, look at that! More Michigan, huh? Oh yeah, the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Well, actually, Cleveland. So Cleveland rocks, but it's it's very good. But keep going.
So anyway.
Just pouring my beer.
Now that I think about it, it probably wasn't a Pixie show. Sorry, it was a That Might Be Giants show. But anyway, I was at it was the same club. I was there, and it was hot as fuck. And I remember there was at one point we were all like, it was like, you know, as a friend of mine used to say, nuts to butts in this place. Like you couldn't get a razor blade between people. They were packed in there so bad. And at some point, everybody's kind of like the whole crowd's undulating like this. And I remember there was a time when like people finally like backed away from me for like a second. There was like maybe a foot and a half of space, and I actually seriously I saw like mist like float up. You know what I'm saying? Like steam escaping from the crowd, and I was like, holy shit! Like so that's the thing. Like it's already hot in a venue, but then you pack that many people in there, and with all the body heat, like it becomes like 300 degrees in there. You know what I'm saying? And you're just like, oh my god, it's so fucking hot.
Exactly.
So. Yeah, that's another.
And so let's think about that in context right now, right? We're all breathing on each other.
Yeah, but you know how many
it's funny that you mentioned the tall guy in front of me.
Go ahead, tall guy.
We're too excited. We're too drunk. I'm too drunk.
Okay, we'll talk about the tall guy. What about
this? Makes the show good for viewers. Oh, tall guy. Yeah, no, it's funny you mentioned specifically tall guy and drunk girl because it's like superhero like nemesis. Like I don't know who I am, but they were my nemesis at I think 2 different concerts at the Orange Peel, which is a huge venue downtown. It's a great venue here in Nashville. Yeah, there was one time we were at a show and this guy who was he had to be 7 feet tall, and I'm 5'4". Matt's 5 foot. 5'8" 5'7". We're not tall people, right? And he like literally he made a beeline, and we're like about halfway through the crowd, right? he makes a beeline through the crowd to directly in front of us. I'm like, in what world is that okay? I don't understand why that's okay.
No, it's like, these tall guys need to realize that they can stand at the very back and still see the show.
They can see everything.
So
everything. And there was Drunk Girl too. Like, I was at a concert once.
Go ahead. Drunk Girl.
All right. Well, I was at a concert once where a drunk girl was next to me, and she was standing there. I was standing there for the entire opening act, and she was too. And then when the opening act left, she left. And then, so I'm still standing there, and the headliner comes on, and the girl walks back because it's standing room only, right? So everybody kind of pushed forward as people left. She came back to get her entire spot. And she was like, we actually got into a physical altercation, which I could not do anymore, but totally did.
Yeah.
I was ready to kick her ass.
They leave between the show, and they think they're entitled to the spot that they stood in earlier in the show because
right.
I was here, and you're like, well, you fucking left, and then I moved, and now you're gone.
You left. All right. So I'm a little late on this because I've had more to drink than I usually do in a show. So, but we have to pause for our station break. Yeah, it's very important. We have to pause for our station break. And to pause for our station break, I'm going to go ahead and stick this up here so that we give the station break. So I have one for you. Wait, internet, make it work. Go, internet, do a thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll just give the station break. It might show up. It might not. Anyway. So a couple weeks ago, maybe or so, oh, there it is, it's coming. You talked about at the Tiny House Festival in North Carolina. You talked about the box truck that you saw that was converted into a house.
I did. Yeah,
I just learned. Yes, You saw what?
Sorry, I was just going to
see a thing
today on Facebook. I guess Deke has got a video or something about it.
A movie, like it's a whole serious movie about it. So Alex Eames is the guy who made the box truck. And I felt really bad I couldn't remember his name when we talked about it earlier. But Alex Eames and Derek Diedrichsen from Relax Shacks have made a movie about the box truck. So I wanted to give them a shout out because Deke is a friend of mine. Alex is cool, and we love tiny houses. So I don't know all the details. It's not finalized. We don't know what's happening yet, but visit relaxshacks.com and you will find out more about this movie, about this tiny house truck, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So, and I was going to talk about New Belgium, but we already did, and they did a really good job. So that is my station break for the day. Yay. So relaxshacks.com. Go visit.
About the good beers they had at New Belgium. Briefly, they have a lime lager right now, folks. Go out and buy that. It's a really good beer, and they've got a mixed 12-pack.
We bought a 6-pack of it.
It's got the lime lager, it's got the wit, and it's got the Citradelic, and it's got the Voodoo Ranger Hazy IPA. I'm not an IPA drinker, and I was telling Laura this over the weekend, like, when I see a 12-pack, a mixed 12-pack, and it's like 3 out of 4 of them are ones I like, that's a good 12-pack to me. Because if there's only 3 beers left that I won't drink, that's great because you put those in the fridge, and when company comes over, they'll drink them. So there you go. Go out and buy that 12-pack.
Which is usually me in that instance.
Yeah, she's the company I'm talking about. So, yeah.
I am. I will drink beers. Like if I go to a friend's house and they say I really didn't like this beer, I'll be like, I'll drink it. I'm fine with that. I'll drink it. Doesn't matter what it is. But yeah, the lime lager, we bought a whole 6-pack of it because it was really, really good. And it's very light and very refreshing. We also bought a 6-pack of their Voodoo Ranger 1985, which is billed as a mango IPA. But it tasted really, either way, it was tropical. But for me, it tasted really pineapple-y, and I'm really into like tropical flavors and tiki drinks right now. So it was super delicious, and I loved it. So we bought a 6-pack of that too.
I'm not an IPA drinker, but I'll vouch for that one. I like it almost as much as I like Going Coastal by Sweetwater. It was in that same flavor kind of thing. Definitely a good beer. I drank a couple of them, and I'm not an IPA drinker, so there you go.
Exactly. All right, station break over. My next question for you, Bill Perkins, who has opinions. What has been your most memorable or biggest? I have an answer to this question, so I will tackle it after you do. But what has been your biggest or most memorable crowd experience?
Phew. Let's see. Most memorable crowd experience.
Good or bad, either way.
Yeah, I would probably lean towards bad, but I'm trying to remember like one that I hated more than another. It has to definitely be when I get into a situation where you're in a crowd, and I can't think of a specific instance now. I know it's happened to me a couple times, but when you get into a crowd where there's like kind of like you don't have control over your person anymore, like you're just being pushed. You know what I'm saying? Like you're just being pushed along.
Yeah.
You're just heard. That's I think. And maybe, it's funny because I was just talking to my son earlier before the show about the way Americans perceive our independence and our individuality. And maybe there's a little bit of that, like you're bristling because suddenly you're part of the hive instead of being you. Like it takes away your autonomy to suddenly be pushed along as one of the herd. I don't know. Like it's interesting because you see those videos actually of like how in Japan like people get on the train and they have a guy there to shove more people on the train.
Yeah,
and that would never come in America.
Matt, my wonderful partner who may be listening to this, he's experienced that. He's been pushed onto a train. His feet were not touching the ground when he was riding on it.
Yeah. So I'm saying that's a thing that like maybe people in other countries don't experience the same way Americans do, and that's kind of one of the things that I think is interesting about New York, because New York is a village of it's what they used to call it, the global village, right? It's like everybody there's not American,
right?
And so they don't feel about crowds the way we do. Americans have a bubble of personal space that goes as well. Right, we have a different concept of personal space than other countries do, and then so when we get into a situation where we're touching other body, like I don't want to touch another body unless we're being intimate, really, like that's
exactly.
Sometimes you're like, hey, I don't know your name, and you're really close to me.
Exactly. No, my most memorable crowd experience. So this was a long time ago. So I have never been totally thrilled with super crowds. I've also never been a night person. I've always been a morning person, like my whole life. So even at 20 something, I was like a little old lady that just wanted to go to bed by 10 o'clock. So the most memorable crowd experience I've ever had has been New Year's Eve, New York City, 1997/98. So it was, New Year's 98. And we were living in Detroit, and I was living with Matt in a duplex with his brother and his stoner friend Rob. And we just on a whim said, let's drive to New York for New Year's Eve. Why not? And we took my freaking Dodge Shadow and drove it from Michigan to New York City. And it was we actually stayed in Newark, New Jersey, so we took the train into New York City. So I don't know how old I'm 45 now. I don't know how old I was in 1997/98, but it was insane. And we got downtown. So this was even before 9/11, obviously, before they cordoned off all that stuff. It had lots of security. Other than that, they were doing the ball drop. There wasn't anything fancy going on. We got down to Times Square at 8 o'clock at night. And we realized, much like you said earlier, we're not going to stand here until midnight. We want to do things. So we went to dinner, and then we went to a strip club because I was drunk, and we went to a strip club. It was a very famous strip club, and it was
porn stores and stuff.
Yeah. Scores. We went there. I went there. We were there for a long time too. But by the time we made it back out to the street, it was like 11:30, and now it was jam-packed, like people everywhere. So we were nowhere near the ball. By the time we came out of what we were doing, we were way the hell down Broadway. We couldn't even see the ball. We had no idea. We had to trust that people were counting down. So my guess is like we were actually several seconds past midnight, because it was probably like telephone game, right? As everyone's counting down. So I have no idea. But we were exactly right. And it was insane. It was absolutely crazy. There was a weird situation where we were, because we were just out on the street, right? And a bunch of guys were next to us that we don't know, but one of them's like, after midnight, after everything happened, one of them was like, I have to pee. Everyone form a piss circle. So everyone turned their backs into a circle so the guy could pee in the street. And it was seriously the weirdest thing I've ever been involved in. And then just like the press of people, oh, it was just awful. It was absolutely awful.
Did he pee on the back of anyone's legs?
Not as far as I know. It was a pretty expansive piss circle as described. Okay. But what I will say, though, to the very end of that experience, like the press of people rushing to the subway stations or to Central Station, because we had to get on a bus to go back to Newark, was awful. And I hated that like half hour of the whole experience. But everything from 8 o'clock to then was amazing. And I freaking loved it. But it was just that like 30 minutes where I was like in that crowd of a herd of people that I could have done without completely.
And that's honestly, I would say that's probably the suckiest. The second suckiest thing about New Year's Eve is the crowd. The first suckiest thing, and I'm talking about anywhere you go, because if you go somewhere for New Year's Eve, you're in a crowd.
Yes.
And the first suckiest thing about New Year's Eve is you stay up till midnight.
Right, I'm with you there completely. That's why we host our own parties now, and we're done at like 12:02.
Yeah. I'm usually like, you know what? At like 11, I'm like, it's New Brunswick. Let's go to bed.
And like it's gonna be the next year, whether I am awake or not. It'll be fine. All right. So we've been chatting a lot, and I'm really drunk, so I've been just blabbering on. But so the next question I have for you, Bill, crowd management tips. Do you have any tips for people in crowds of how they should handle it?
So I want to say this because when we're at Dragon Con, and so this is the hardest thing about crowds really is if you're in a group, if you're like with somebody and you have to move through the crowd and you're trying to stay in the group, right? Okay, so this is the only thing I have to say about crowd management tips is you're trying to move through. There's two things you can do. You can either just hold hands and really grip hard and hope to dear God that you stay together. But you probably at some point you just have to let go. You know, you're like, oh, I'll remember you. You know, and you know
exactly. It's like Jack on Titanic. Like I'm going down.
You know, it happens. Like you get separated at some point. So Laura did this thing one year. We were at Dragon Con, and every time we would go somewhere, and this was we were all doing like Harry Potter cosplay characters, and so she would hold her wand above her head, and as if she was doing Luminos, and she would wave her wand around, and she'd go, and we're walking, and we're walking, and we're walking, and we would just follow the wand. So I guess if we have a flag
we all stayed together. No one got lost.
No one got lost.
No one got lost.
Like so yeah, have a leader who has something they can wave around and follow that person, or somebody who's wearing like a bright color, like maybe that person your leader, whoever's in your group that is the most easy to follow. Just keep eye contact. That's my tip. Just follow that person.
Yeah, and as it turns out, I fit many of those bills because we were all. It was Dragon Con. It was very, very, very crowded. As Heather said, Saturday night at the Marriott at Dragon Con is insane, completely insane. But the reason, so we're Harry Potter characters, right? So the base color is black for most people. But I was Professor Trelawney, so I was in green and orange and crazy hair, and I had this wand. So I just took the lead and was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna do this. Yeah. So yeah, and we didn't lose a single person. So I have a second tip for people, but Jay has a tip as well. Put the tallest or biggest person in front to make a hole, right? Because people, if the biggest person is in front, you don't get lost.
Yeah, you want a tank in your party.
But you do. You want a tank. The other thing I will suggest, if you're in a crowd like that, like Dragon Con or, like a big fun event like that, assign a meetup spot. It doesn't matter where that meetup spot is, even if you like beeline to that place first and decide that's your meetup spot, and then people like orbit and they can come back. But if you assign a meetup spot, then people can find you no matter where. Like, even if people go off on their own, they can always find you. And whether that's in the most crowded bar, you just pick a landmark and you're like, here's where I'm going to be. Or if it's so broad and you're like, hey, we're going to be back at the hotel room. If you get lost, we'll be there. So in any case, like depending on the circumstances, right? So like at Dragon Con during the day, and I miss Dragon Con a lot, and we're going to miss it a lot this year. But at Dragon Con during the day, we would be like, people can go out and about and do their thing, but we'll all meet up at the hotel room whenever. Like someone will always be there. But at night, if we went out to party, we would be like, here's home base, and also I have a wand or whatever, and you can follow me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's like the 70s, like Walt Disney World kind of thing is, here's where we're going to meet at this time, right? Like, so if we get separated, or if you do your own thing or whatever, we're going to be in front of Cinderella's castle at 3:00. That's where we're going to meet up. So, right, exactly. So we've mentioned it, and Heather has made a comment about this. So I was going to ask you, Bill, what crowds do you miss? And I think you were alluding to crowds that are your exception, and I think the one that our viewers can extrapolate from that is Dragon Con. So what do you miss? What do you wish was happening and are planning toward happening again? Yeah. So Dragon Con is getting my exception to the rule because you're in because most of the time when you're in a crowd, you're just in a crowd of, again, that thing I was talking about earlier. You become part of the herd, I guess, and it strips away your autonomy. And that's what happens in any crowd. But in Dragon Con, the difference is, and maybe for other people, that's the crowd at a ball game, or maybe it's the crowd at a racetrack, But for me, that crowd is at Dragon Con because then I feel accepted. Like, even if I don't know the 12 people surrounding me, like, they're my people. They get me and I get them. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't bother me then if I'm, bumping into them and all that, because they're my people, right? Like, it's so different. It's not the same as at the concert. I know we're all at the concert to see the band. We enjoy the band, but the tall guy who decides he's going to horn in on your spot, he doesn't care about you as a person. Whereas I feel like at Dragon Con, or maybe at the sporting event, hopefully at the sporting event, I don't know how that works because I don't go to them, but but I hope whatever.
Apparently we have a comment. Jay Hicks says, "I want to murder everybody in front of me at a Lions game." Which is, I am also a Detroit Lions fan, so go blue and silver, whatever. That's not happening this year, but we can dream.
They're gonna go all the way.
I agree, but there's like a fine line in between. I actually really like going to away games as a Lions fan, especially a Lions fan. Like if I were a Patriots fan, I wouldn't go to away games. But Lions fan, like people feel sorry for you if you're in their stadium and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I love you."
Aw, look at the
So I
Lions.
actually enjoyed that.
Why are you sitting here for this?
Aw. Look at that sad little Lions fan. They're gonna lose. It'll be so sad.
We didn't really need that last 12 points. That was just adding insult to injury.
It always is. Oh, my food is here already. My food is 15 minutes early and it's here already. People, let's talk about that. But that's exciting. So my food is here. So I suppose we should totally wrap up the show then. We have 15 minutes left and my food has arrived. So
why don't you go get your food and I'll talk?
Okay. All right, talk for 1 second. I'll go get it and bring it inside.
Yeah. So crowds, I don't love them, but they're an inevitable part of living in a world full of people. Sometimes, folks, you just have to deal with them, and that's the way it is. And shoot, I'm sure there's another exception. When you go to opening night of a sci-fi movie that you really want to see, you're still in your crowd. That's fine. Those people are great. That's kind of like being a Dragon Con, sort of, kind of, but not altogether, but mostly.
Right.
What'd you get to eat, by the way? What you got? Pizza?
Sushi from Wasabi in downtown Asheville.
Man. I had a gift card one time. My work gave me a gift card to Wasabi, and we went there. It was an $80 gift card. We ate like kings. We got everything. We ate all the things, and I even got the green tea ice cream. And I was like, "Oh, I'm living large."
Oh yeah.
But I didn't.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, we ordered sushi to be delicious.
I did not wait in a queue for it though, so there was no crowding, and I was enjoying.
No.
That's one of those things I hate. Like, so speaking of Asheville, like if you go into Asheville in the summertime, this is one of the things. I moved out of Asheville now, but I lived there. I lived there until about this time last year, and I always enjoy going uptown. But I swear, in the summertime, you go uptown, and as soon as you go uptown, like on a Saturday, you regret it. Like you go, "Oh shit, I totally forgot. Like this is a thing that happens." And you go uptown, and the place is just like,
yeah.
You can't walk. It's like Times Square, but it's a small town. It's like a town of, what is it, like 200,000 people maybe? But it's like Times Square.
Not even.
Yeah, it's crazy, and you can't get in any place, and it's just frustrating. I don't recommend it. And that's one of the problems.
No, I love this city with all my.
Yeah.
I love this city with every fiber of my being, but in the summer, it is like Disney World. Like the tourists don't treat it like it's a city that people live in. They treat it like it's Disney World, and that's a problem. And I think that's a separate crowd issue, but I think that's a problem, right? And I think we talked about this on our travel show, right? If you go to a place, don't act like a tourist, act like a local. Like, treat it like people live there, because people do live there. And that's all they care about, is that they're treated like human beings, not tourist attractions.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's problematic when there's a huge crowd in town and you're trying to do anything. I want to say, I don't know, so this is in the news lately, protests. That's a crowd, but that's, again, it's kind of more like Dragon Con. But it's more like Dragon Con because you're around like-minded people for the most part, and you have a unifying cause, so it makes it somewhat acceptable if you're packed in there with everybody, because you feel like there's like a unity in the crowd, right? Like if you went to a protest and it was you and 12 other people, you feel pretty like, I might as well go home. But when it's you and and thousands of other people, you feel like, hey, we've got a voice here. Something good might come of this, maybe, So there's a thing. That's
exactly.
I do that once in a while. Go to a
Right.
protest crowd. So,
All right.
yeah.
So we're coming up on the end of the show. We've got to take care of some business.
Oh, yeah.
And I think crowds, I think we've had a fairly good crowd discussion, which we could probably just, like all of our other talks, we could probably flesh this out into a number of different categories. But so we need to move on though. We need to close the show. So mailbag. We don't have an official mailbag this week, but last week, which was our binge watching show, right? I mentioned Kim's Convenience. And longtime listener Albert Short asked if it was like Corner Gas, which I had watched an episode of Corner Gas and did not love, but I absolutely am in love with Kim's Convenience. But an interesting side note that I wanted to address for Albert, it's the same writer. So the writer that wrote Corner Gas is also one of the writers on Kim's Convenience. So if you like one, you might like the other, or vice versa. So just wanted to point that out. So he was in fact correct.
It's mildly like Corner Gas, is what you're saying. But there was something about it that you didn't.
Apparently, it's enough like Corner Gas.
Okay, but there's something about it that you didn't.
I watched the first episode and didn't feel connected.
Okay, but the first episode, I always feel like the characters are weird because it's a pilot episode usually, and
that's true.
And they haven't actually fleshed out who the characters are yet. Like,
right.
Encounter at Farpoint sucks, but you have to watch it in order to continue watching the series Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yeah.
So
Yes, that's absolutely true. So maybe after this, I'll go back and watch Corner Gas because now I know, right?
Yeah.
So.
Or you'll watch Encounter.
All right. I tried to rewatch. I rewatched all of Deep Space Nine, and I loved it. It's my favorite one. And then I was like, I'm going to go back and watch all of Next Generation, and I did. I realized I watched the first episode, and I'm like, I know, I understand it. I watched it the first time. Then I was like, after that, I was like, I still don't know. Like, I think I should skip to like third season or something. Maybe I should have. I just never went back to binge it.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Perkins. Things that are extra. What do you have for us this week?
All right. So things that are extra this week. So this has been going on probably for a few months, but I kind of I don't know. Maybe it took me a while to notice it. To really notice it. And I presume this is going on everywhere, but it kind of happened. It kind of crept in at the beginning of the pandemic in my area. Or maybe it was prior to that, but I just really started noticing it. Maybe it's because of my lack of other social interactions. But when I stop at the gas station, at the Corner Gas, if you will, to get my gas,
right?
Now there's these TV screens on the pumps all of a sudden, and they try to sell me on some I don't know, it's like some cutesy hey, here's a cute tip. You can use rubber bands to do this thing. And then and this guy comes on and tells me about, what Nickelback's doing right now or some shit. I don't know, whatever it is. It's so stupid. I don't care. I'm just trying to pump my gas, and it's like a Philip K. Dick dystopia, out of Minority Report or something that I'm being advertised to. I'm already here spending money, okay? I get it, and I'm a captive audience because I got to stand here until the gas finishes pumping, and they're like, blah 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 blah.
Exactly.
It's something I noticed recently, and I don't like it. And they can go ahead and remove them now, or I don't know. I guess maybe people will punch them, or people will start smashing them. That'd be nice. That'd be one of those things. Normally, senseless vandalism I don't care for, but if I came to the gas station and somebody had punched the little screen on the pump so that it couldn't advertise to me, I would be okay with that. I'd be like, that's fine. You you broke that thing. Go you, because it's dumb. Right. I don't care for it. I guess on one hand, if you're a fan of dystopian sci-fi, it makes you go, okay, we're here now, but I don't know. Like I get advertised to all
Right.
the time, and I don't need one more place to get advertised to. So it's just give me a moment
Right.
to sit here.
Right.
And I usually when I'm pumping the gas, I admire the cliff swallows that live in the top of the canopy at the gas station. You know, or I take a moment to
Yes.
to scrub the windshield with the squeegee. So
Or just reflect on your day, like
yeah, that. Yeah, I got things to do today. What am I doing? Okay,
Yeah.
very good. But
I
now
don't need to be advertised to.
I'm being accosted by oh, I don't remember her name now. Something Munez. She's the same girl who gives you the pregame show at the movie theater back when that was a thing. You know, she
Yeah, Marina Muniz. Yes, absolutely. Very familiar with her television or her movie preview and gas station career. That's literally what she does.
I mean, isn't that great? That's what she gets to put on her resume. When she goes out for jobs.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Like,
I
if
did
that's what you make a career out of, good on you.
I bother people at the movie theater before the movie comes on, and then I bother people at the gas station. So anyway.
All right. The show is nearing an end. I fully support your anti-gas station video advertising crusade.
Yeah.
But so before we do the actual closing remarks, as you are in charge of, I do want to mention to our listeners, there were 5 at the most. There are 3 now. There are 5 people. I would like to point out, after today, this is actually the last show we'll be doing where we're in the same basic general area. And so my internet will be much less shitty. So starting next week, we will have much less shitty internet. So stay tuned for that as well. We will not we want less shitty internet. So I'll be back in Atlanta where we have all of the internet, literally all of it, every internet I have access to, which I do not right now. So I just want people to know we're glad you're hanging out with us. We want more people to hang out with us. And right now, I know it kind of sucks with technical issues, but we've been limping along.
If you enjoy our show, yes, please invite at least one friend to also enjoy our show, and then we'll have 12 viewers, maybe, on a good day.
Well, 10 people?
It depends on the time.
We want more people, so tell your friends.
Yeah, tell people to watch this crap.
All right.
And, you know, so here's
all we want.
There's the disclaimer. This show is engineered and produced by Laura Lavoie. The opinions are those of Bill, except for the ones that Laura said out loud, and those are hers. And the ones they both shook their head in agreement on, they share. They're not the opinions of any of the advertisers who didn't pay us a dime anyway. You know, those are just things we like. And hopefully sometime in the future we'll have real advertisers. Be sure to, if you're on Facebook, be sure to like our page or follow it or whatever it is you do on Facebook. And on YouTube, you like and you subscribe and you leave a hateful comment down below and call me a homosexual or whatever it is, you know. There you go. That's how you do it. And say something bad about Justin Bieber too, because I think that's a prerequisite. You have to say something bad about Justin Bieber in the comments, no matter what the video is about.
Nice.
And also ask people to watch the Plandemic below, because that's another thing that you do is you try to get people to go to a different video that has nothing to do with this one. So do that. And
fair enough.
Share it with your friends, though. Definitely share it with your friends. Say, hey, this was a thing that was crap, and I hated it, so you would probably hate it too. So check it out.
Perfect. I love it. All right, folks, we are done for another week. We appreciate you watching, and for people who watch live, thank you. For people who continue to watch not live, also thank you. And we'll be back next week. Next week will be our 20th episode, so we'll be back then.
All you folks in 2025 who are going back watching the archives, and this something, huh? Like, wow. Can you believe we used to do it this way?
Right. This is weird. This is totally weird. All right, folks. See you soon. We'll see you next